something.
After the burn, controlled fires are set up to burn wood only, and the creed of "leave no trace" goes into effect. Nothing will remain, not a piece of paper, a cigarette butt, even a footprint.
1,000 people here.
It's pristine.
And there's practically no trash, and if someone sees something on the ground, they pick it up. You know?
And there's no trash cans.
There's no trash cans. Everyone's everyone respects, everyone's like, the cleanliness, the just nature, above all nature.
In the last couple generations, I was born in 48. There's become a great change over American society. We've been certainly given great and greater enjoy greater and greater individual liberty, but it's at a cost in some ways because there's less and less social connection, and by any measure. It's a fellow who wrote a book called Bowling Alone, which Robert Putnam, in which he said there's a retro fashion in bowling. By the year 2010, everyone will bowl alone. And this has had drastic effects on our country. In fact, it's very stressful because we're told constantly that we have it made and we're rich and we're comfortable and and yet we don't feel good. And now, of course, they're selling us fear. It turns out that that's a hotter commodity than desire was, and exploiting fear in the process. And why shouldn't we feel fearful in a world where you don't have to make contact with anyone to satisfy your needs? You can live off your credit card entirely. I'm afraid that's a terrible thing. And people go out there. Community isn't based on sentiment. It isn't based on mere goodwill. It's based on struggling together with others to survive together. My parents went through the Dust Bowl. They lost everything in the world. It was the people, consumers today, younger people can't imagine it. They cannot imagine it. Maybe they should start imagining it. Since America is starting to list, I don't know if anybody's noticed it, the deck is kind of, and most people haven't. They can't imagine it. It's been such a long ride. They don't even see that the empire's ending, but it is. And people go out there in the middle of the howling wilderness in order to make connection with one. Isn't that ironic? Isn't it ironic? And it's primarily white people, frankly, because they're the ones that have the least community by and large, if truth were known. It's the one thing that we can't buy with our credit card. It isn't for sale. It has to be experienced. And so it is a bizarre thing.
40,000 people line up to leave at the same time, and in the middle of this vast space, there is a 3-hour traffic jam.
If you stayed there much longer, everybody just die. Some of them are half dead when they leave. I mean, it's very stimulating and somewhat draining, and it's not a sustainable environment and hostile to every form of life.
I mean, the spectacle, this is my 3rd year, and so like the first 2 years, I think the spectacle and the grandiose nature of everything was all it really took to keep me just almost overwhelmed with beauty and inspiration and amazing things. But this year it's kind of like, okay, I've seen like a huge 100-foot thing on fire, and I've seen people spinning fire, I've seen people walking on stilts, seen the crazy bikes, I've got a few, all that shit. And so now it's like, yeah, it's much more important for me to meet people. I think that's kind of the guiding purpose that keeps me coming back here. Because no matter what they build, no matter what they make, there's always going to be an environment where we have to work together to prosper, you know, and so we're going to meet people, have some food, let's eat together, and just really connect on a different level. Learn a lot about yourself along the way.
We have these events and they're set apart. I was talking about sacredness as being apart from the world, but what's the point of having sacredness if it doesn't instill in ordinary life? You know, you contemplate that, you witness that, you take that value and that strong spirit, and then you infuse it in everything you do. Otherwise, what's the point? So I would much rather see people try to reform and change and reinvent the ordinary world instead of trying to escape from it, because really, in the end, you can't escape from it. You have to turn around and face it.
On the road to Reno, an enterprising Mexican family has set up a taco stand selling vegetarian tacos. He knows his market, and for now, until the next Burning Man, the gifting economy is over. In Reno, many of the citizens of Black Rock City choose to stay at Circus Circus Casino. They look and feel strangely out of place, as if this real world was now unreal to them. They wait on the VIP line, chat in the lobby, shake hands rather than hugging.
I think what will happen, and what is already happening, is that some of the most creative ideas are coming from the regional communities themselves as they begin to apply these notions to many aspects of daily reality, and not just art, and not just as the events that are all over the place now that emulate our own. But we're looking. We think the next we believed in the next phase is to see our culture reinserted, not into the mainstream that everyone is so frightened of, the mainstream of mass culture, but onto the main street of American life.
Several months later, the burners gather together in cities all over the world for an event called Decom, or decompression. In New York, it's not in a desert. The nearest desert is 3,000 miles away. It's in a warehouse building on a deserted street in Brooklyn. On its roof, there is a small geodesic dome and light shows. It's very cold. All the New York camps are there. Costume Jim from Costume Cult is still wearing his big head. Disorient is dancing non-stop, and the music is loud, very loud. There's even a mini version of the Miss Black Rock beauty pageant. Photos of the burn line the wall, in case you should forget where they came from, where they've been. The event is tightly controlled. Fire marshals make sure the fire spinner is confined to an alley and separated from the onlookers by a yellow plastic caution ribbon. A man with a fire extinguisher stands at the ready a few feet away. Now you are in Kansas again. Around 4 a.m., the police arrive and threaten to shut down the gathering for some unknown reason, but leave after warning DJs not to play music and the bartenders not to serve any drinks. It's not, by far, the Burning Man experience, but enough to make you want to return next year to get your 1-week dose of the burn.